And what did you do there? So many times when I'm talking to students, they did event planning. They had birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and weddings and things like that. They did some of the social media and promotions. They did a whole variety of things. So I think you still should include the things, but you focus on the things that are most related. So welcome those of you that are Zooming in. So these are some of the things. And when I go through some of the samples, you're going to see more details. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. One thing that you do, and I don't know, the formatting got off a little bit, is one thing that most of you have if you haven't done an internship yet, or if you haven't had actual work experience in the field, many of you have had class projects, and you've done some PR campaigns. So you could list those, and this is one way you could do it, client-based projects. You could put the name of the organization and what you did, and things like that. So whether you're doing presentations, or the social media, or whatever else you're doing, surveys, you could put down your client-based projects. And there's other ways you can present this, but I just want to let you know that would be one thing. Or you can just do it even simpler. This is my PR experience, and these are different types of things that I did. So that could be a section of related experience or PR experience that could be really highlighted on your resume. So again, I'm going to talk more about resumes when I get to the website, where we have samples and things like that. Just any quick questions right now about resumes? Do all of you have an up-to-date resume? You feel good about your resume? Okay. So again, some of the things I'm seeing with the templates, do you think you should have your picture on your resume? How many people think you should have your resume? And I know it doesn't make sense. Still, the rule is not to have your picture on your resume unless you're applying for a position where you would be on camera. You know, if you're a model, if you are an actor, if you are a TV broadcast anchor, then you might want to have your picture. Now, does it make sense? Because some of you might put your LinkedIn profile on your resume, and on your LinkedIn, you definitely should have your picture. And I know that might not make sense, but that still is the rule. But I see a lot of pictures on resumes right now, photos on resumes. And the rule is not to do that. Yes? Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the other theme I see is a lot of double column resumes, and a lot of students are like, well, that just looks so cooler, and I like that. So I have a whole bunch of information I can talk about with applicant tracking systems, and that's the webinar I went to this summer, and that's what I wanted to make sure I still had all the up-to-date information. So let me just say a couple of things about that. So one reason why we suggest some of the things is because you want to make sure your resume is going to be seen, and you don't want the silly reason because the software couldn't read your resume. So it might not make sense to you, but let's say the ad says you must submit your resume by Microsoft Word. Most students I know don't even know Microsoft anymore because we're a Google campus, but most companies out there still use Microsoft, okay? Now I use both, and why is that? A lot of the applicant tracking systems, the software, might only be able to read Microsoft Office. So if you send it through Google Doc or through Adobe InDesign, the software might not be able to read it, okay? And so that's the thing. So some of the templates too, they have the address first and then the name. Your name should be the top thing and it should just appear all by itself. So yeah, a lot of people who do columns, the software can't read that. So there's a reason why they might ask for a particular format. So make sure you follow the rules. So I just want to talk about this. So I know some people will say, cover letters, that's old-fashioned. Nobody uses cover letters anymore. And actually, at this webinar I went to, that was one of the topics. And several of the people said, I don't care about cover letters, I don't read them. But let me tell you more about this. We have an employer advisory committee with our office, and we ask these questions too. And one thing in general, I would say, what do you think is more important, a resume or a cover letter? And I honestly think it's a 50-50 split. I know some employers who go straight to the resume, see if you meet the basic qualifications. Then if you do, then they might read your cover letter. But I know other people who do it the opposite. They read your cover letter, see if you made a convincing argument for why you should get the interview. Can you form a sentence? Can you form a paragraph? Are you positive? Are you addressing the things? And if you don't in the cover letter, they're not going to bother reading your resume. Now, one thing even the panel that was on this webinar this summer talked about is they said, a good cover letter will never hurt you, though. And eventually, and the good thing that I did like to hear, despite that a lot of companies do use applicant tracking systems, is they said, people are more involved in the process than you think. It's not just all computers making all the decisions or hiring decisions. Even at the early stages, people are still involved, okay? And they said, now, if you have a poorly written letter or filled with typos, you said you have great attention to detail, and I found 10 typos in your cover letter. No, that's not going to help your case, okay? But they said a well-crafted, a well-written cover letter will only help you. And we live in a competitive world, right? And right now, I'm not even going to get into everything, but there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of craziness in the world right now. I mean, all you have to do is follow the news. It's a lot of craziness. And actually, I had one of the professors ask if I would talk about the job market, the future of the job market. And right now, I said, right now, particularly, I don't feel real confident knowing what to do. But all you can do is control. What do you have control over? And that's presenting your best possible self, okay? So if a cover letter can sometimes help you, then I think it's still worth submitting cover letters. It's not going to ever hurt you if you submit a good cover letter. So a couple things. So with resumes, I like it to be very objective. The dates, the places, what did you do? And a cover letter, I think, can be a little bit more subjective. Why are you interested? What are some other attributes you have to bring? What are some unique things that maybe you didn't put on your resume? And the reason I say that is most of the resume templates will have a skills section. And you know what I see in a lot of the skills section? Dependable, organized, friendly, time management, things like that. To me, those are more attributes or personality skills, or sometimes you would call them soft skills. Now, are those things important? Absolutely. Absolutely, they're important. But to me, they're not very meaningful as just a list on your resume. They're much more impactful if you put them into context. And you can usually do that better in a cover letter. So I'm not a big fan of just putting a list like organized, friendly, dependable on your resume. Now, what kind of skills should you be putting on your resume? Well, I think for almost any job, your computer skills, if you're multilingual, if you do have certifications, sometimes people just put social media. I want to know, what platforms do you know? I want to know, if you know more of the enhanced features. And it's one thing to watch a bunch of YouTube videos or TikTok videos. It's another thing if you know how to create them and you know how to edit them and you know how to effectively do those things. So if you can make yourself stand out. But the other thing, again, in listing skills, sometimes people just put computer skills or social media. Those applicant tracking systems might be specifically looking for Excel or Adobe Illustrator or whatever else. If you just put social media, it's not going to capture that. So what I recommend you do, and I'm going to show you a bunch of examples, whether you're a sophomore, junior, senior, wherever you're at, is look at sample job vacancies. And I'm going to show you all sorts of targeted ones. And look at a variety of jobs that look interesting. Kind of make note, either a mental note or write it down or keep track somehow, of what are the skills that they are looking for. And then make sure those are reflected on your resume and in your cover letter. So that is important. So So again, but you will definitely see articles and people who say, nobody reads cover letters. Don't bother doing them. Now, I do know some companies that require a video cover letter. That's your application. I think Tom's Shoes, you know, the Tom's, and that's your cover letter. You have to do a presentation, a video presentation, and that's your cover letter. So that's not impossible. So that's just a little bit about cover letters. Okay, the next thing I just want to cover a little bit is interviewing. And interviewing is an important stage. You wouldn't have an interview unless they thought you met the minimum qualifications. So what they're trying to figure out is, can you do what you said you would do? Because sometimes people have an impressive looking application, but then you meet them and they're like, this doesn't even seem like the same person. I'm not impressed at all. Or I would say sometimes people are really good on a very surface level, but you just dig a little bit further and they have nothing to back it up. So an interview is trying to get across that. Now, you don't ever know for sure what they're going to ask, and this is all on our website too, but these are typically asked interview questions and ways to answer them. None of these should throw you off guard. You might not know how to answer them, but they shouldn't surprise you, okay? So these are typical interview questions. Now, one thing, and I just did this quick, one thing you can use ChatGPT for, you can actually put in a job description. You can put in your resume. I would take off your personal contact information if you do that. And you can say, conduct a mock interview with me and ask sample questions and stuff like that. But all I did was, what are some sample questions for an entry-level PR job? And these things came up. So you could do that, though. You could put in things like that and get some ideas. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, but it might give you some ideas. So this is just some real quick things it came up with. That first list I showed you are just generic questions for any industry, but you can get a little bit better idea. Another thing, it's not perfect either, but are you familiar with a website called Glassdoor? Okay. Now, you have to be careful with Glassdoor because Glassdoor is sort of like, I'm having a mind blank about what they're called. The sites where people, it's anonymous. So like restaurant reviews or hotel reviews or whatever else, you get usually the people who love it or the people who hate it, and there's nothing much in between. So Glassdoor is a site where you can find out about companies, and but you can put in about salaries and a variety of things, and people submit information. You can put in SUNY Plattsburgh and see what people are talking about. But part of it is interviewing, and you can say, how hard was it? What did they think of what the process was? Did they get the job or did they accept the job? You can get a bunch of things. But some of them will actually say, I interviewed with this. This is how long it took for me to hear back. These are questions they asked me. And why not use that as just a resource? Again, it's anonymous, and you have to be careful with that. But it's one more resource you can use to get an idea of what might be typically asked. So one of the preparations for interviews is anticipate what questions you might be asked. And what I would say in general too, and of course you should definitely be familiar with the vacancy. You definitely should be going to their website. And one thing that surprises me sometimes, you might be applying for a social media position and you don't even follow them. I'm not saying you have to follow every organization of every job you apply to, but if you have an interview coming up, you definitely should. Because what if they ask you, what's one of our favorite postings or campaigns we did on Instagram in the last month? If you don't follow them, you're not going to know how to answer that, okay? And I would say in general, most companies' social media is more up-to-date than their website. So yes, you should look at the website, but you should be familiar with their social media too, and follow it on a variety of things. A lot of companies still, a lot of them will have TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, but a lot of them still will use Facebook. So a lot of you are not on Facebook actively, but a lot of companies still That's their main thing. So you need to be aware of that. And I'm not saying all of you are doing social media, but many of you will be applying for jobs where that is probably at least part of your job responsibilities. So, and it's obvious, but you should be familiar with various platforms. It's even stronger if you've been the person posting or coordinating the social media for your club, for a campaign, for an organization. So this is just, you should anticipate questions. But you know what a lot of students fall short on? Is they do a pretty good job answering the questions, and then it comes time to the interview. Do you have any questions for me? And a lot of people will have one of two responses. No, you answered everything. Or they might not know what to say, right? And not having questions reflects two things. One, you're not interested, which is not going to impress them. Or two, you haven't done your homework. Now, you probably hear that there are no bad questions or no stupid questions. And in theory, I agree with that. But some questions are more strategic than others, okay? So if you could have gone to the front page of their website and gotten that question answered, that's probably not the most effective thing. But here are some sample questions. Again, this is on our website. What should you ask? Again, these are generic questions for any industry, but you would ask different questions of a prospective supervisor versus a coworker versus somebody in human resources. And the thing that, if you can see down here, the general rule, especially in a first interview, is not to ask about salary or benefits. Why is that? You might have a half-hour scheduled. For somebody to really do a good job of explaining that can be a half-hour discussion itself, okay? Now, I can show you all sorts of resources that you can probably have a good idea. One thing is Glassdoor, but I have a bunch of other websites I'm going to show you that you can get a pretty good idea. And I totally understand, like say, well, it's a waste of my time and a waste of their time if they're not going to offer me the salary I want. I understand that. But there are some other resources. So just in general, if your only questions are, how much are you going to pay me? Where's my office? That's not what I want to hear in a first interview. I don't want to get into all that if I don't even know if I want to hire you yet. Now, there's a whole bunch of questions you should ask before accepting a job. But anyway, so these are some things that you can ask. Now, again, these are generic questions. Your best questions are based on your research. I just saw that you got a new grant. How is that going to affect this? I saw you're opening a new office. I saw that you just got some new clients. I saw that this new legislation has passed. How is that going to affect this? Or, you know, whatever else. So following social media, following them in the, you know, knowing something about them will be the more impressive questions than some obvious things you could have found out in 2 minutes by going to their website. Okay, I just want to make sure, not going to run out of time. So just quickly, this is how a job search should look. It's hard to look for a job if you don't know what you're looking for. And I totally appreciate when students tell me, well, I'm open, I'm flexible, I'm willing to do a lot of things. Great. But it is a little bit harder to focus a job search. So if you have an idea of some key cities you're going to, if you have some key industries, do you want to work in fashion? Do you want to work in sports? Do you want to work for government? Do you want to work in higher ed? Do you want to work in transportation? Then that will help a little bit more. Creating target lists, marketing yourself is putting your materials together. And that is putting, you should, of course, have a resume. I'm one of those people, and not everybody will agree, but if you're applying for similar types of jobs, I don't think you necessarily have to change your resume every time, but I think you should tailor your cover letter. Now, if you do change your resume, that's great, but I think you can do that together. Now, you should have some type of online portfolio. Now, I don't know if all of you do. Depending on what you're doing, you should have it. Now, if nothing else, you could have a LinkedIn account. If you don't know, LinkedIn is sort of the business professional aspect of like social media. And there are companies who use LinkedIn to find candidates, and you can search for jobs on there as well. But if you put your LinkedIn account on your resume and there's really nothing besides your, if you put your link there, but then they bother clicking on it, and then there's really nothing there, you just wasted my time. Now, on the other hand, your resume should match up with your LinkedIn. Sometimes I click on people's LinkedIn accounts, and it doesn't even look like the same person from the resume. So it should be consistent. But you could use your LinkedIn as a multimedia resume. Now, if you also, though, have some other platform you're using and develop to put in, to have a portfolio, because some companies will definitely ask for samples and things like that. And then networking, that's one of the things you're doing here. So good for you being here, and you're gonna have some opportunity to interact with some alumni. I'm not gonna go to this right now, but there are some things. We also have something else on our website that's talking about career competencies, and more employers are using that phrase. And we have a whole little career game plan quiz you can talk about to see how you score as far as your career competencies, as far as what employers want. And I'll show you that as well later on. Just real quickly about graduate school, just ask yourself this. Should I go? I already talked about that a little bit. Do you have to get a master's degree or a PhD? Not necessarily for most jobs you're interested in. But when would I go? It doesn't have to be immediately. It might be in 5 years. What would I study? I already talked about the various things you might want to study. Where would I go? How would I apply? How would I pay for it? So I have a whole bunch of resources on our website, and of course you can come and talk to us about those as well. You should be familiar with all these types of things. In any of your classes and stuff, have you had to do an elevator pitch? Do you know what that's about? Okay. I would argue that's one of the most valuable things you can learn as a skill. Because you think about, that's a lifelong thing that you're going to use. You're going to a conference. You're just starting an interview. You're going to a career fair. You're meeting somebody and you want to date them, and you're in a bar. You're trying to make a new friend in a class. What do? You have that first 90 seconds of how you introduce yourself. So I would argue that is something you're going to be doing throughout your whole lifetime, and one of the most valuable things in creating a good impression. Okay, we talked about handshake. So one of the events coming up is Hire and Hire. We decided this term, I don't know if it's going to go over well, but the idea is we've always had a fall graduate and professional school fair, and there's always been a fall career fair. We are trying to combine it this year. And we are hoping students can go to this fair and check out a variety of their opportunities. So companies and graduate schools. So that's October 30th from 3 to 5:30, right here in the ballroom. So the idea of that too is things are changing. There's more and more online programs. You might have a full-time job and go part-time. You go to school part-time or vice versa, or do both full-time. So there's so many more options. So I'm going to show you who's coming, and I hope you'll consider going to that. Why would you go to this? Well, one is just to see what's out there and what people are looking for. Let's say you're relocating to California and there's no California companies there. Why would you go to a fair if there were no companies from the state you want to go to? Any idea? I think of interactions at a career fair as mini interviews. So you have dozens of opportunities to introduce yourself, to use that elevator pitch, to try to find out. So in some of these companies, they might send the regional or local rep, but they might have nationwide opportunities. So just to get a feel, and that's the same with graduate school. Maybe you want to, none of the graduate schools you're interested in are coming, but you can get valuable information from the ones that are here that would have similar programs. So that's one of the events coming up. You know, I think overall, in most industries, people are dressing more and more casually, but at some point, you're going to probably need to dress professionally. And I hate to use that word because a plumber is a professional. You know, I mean, people are professional, but what we mean is more business professional. So if you don't know, we do have a career closet, we call it. It's actually on the 3rd floor of this building, which most people have never been to. And if you come to our office, we'll take you up there. And this is a picture, actually, we have it even organized a little bit more. I need to get some new pictures. It's organized by sizes and a whole variety of things. But we have donations from different people in the community who've donated a variety of clothes. And if you see something that you like, we have a mirror, we have a changing room up there. You can try it on. If you like it, you can keep it. You don't have to return it. You don't have to pay anything. Okay? So, a little while ago, we had somebody donate a bunch of ties. He said on average, he paid $30 to $40 for each tie. He donated about 50 of them. That's just an example, but a button-down shirt or some dress slacks. So it's worth, and we get new things all the time. So you can check that out. Okay, so this is some of our contact information. So now I want to show you to the website, and I only have a few minutes, so I want to quickly go through some of those things. And hopefully, for those of you on Zoom, I'm not going to lose you. Here, and we're on the website. So are the people on Zoom able to see? Okay, thank you. If you go to the website and then you go to the Career Development Center, if you can make sure that we're still connected, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So again, this is our website. So just real quickly, I talked about you can make an appointment, and we have this here. We actually have a brand new staff member who just started. They should be added tomorrow. I just added them today. But you would just click on the person's information, find out when they're available, put yourself in, you'll get a reminder. So that's that. The other thing I said, our events. So like I said, the one coming up is Higher and Higher. Here's the information. And this will be, there'll be a lot more coming. The ones kind of in pinkish are the graduate schools, and the other ones are companies. So there might be some different opportunities. So there will be some more people coming. So that is that. We have some career tools. So this is where we were talking about, we have some of these resume samples. We have that checklist right here. I talked about using action verbs. Here's a list of action verbs arranged according to synonyms. So you can use a whole variety of these words for created and managed and communicated, different things there. And then we do have some different samples. You don't have to follow one of these, but if you do want one of these, we do have them as templates. I'm not a big fan of any templates. Certainly, if you do use a template, use some critical thinking. So I have some people who I can tell use templates. You know why? On one of our templates, we have, maybe not this one, but it'll say leadership. I don't know which one it is now, but one of them says, like, say leadership or activities, and then they'll use that as a title. No, you choose one or the other or something similar. You don't do both. But some templates other people use, there'll be some just gibberish language that you're supposed to fill in the blanks, and people leave that in there. Or it'll say your name here, and then I see resumes that say your name here. So make sure you change things appropriately. So those are some of the resume type things. This is the thing I talked about for the software for mock interviews. And there's a lot of companies who use similar software to do that. And we're actually paying a little bit extra. And that you can submit your resume. You can do the mock interview and watch it back yourself. You can send it to a friend or family member or somebody in our office or a faculty member. But we're actually paying a little bit extra that AI will give you feedback. And we thought it was actually pretty good. So we're going to see how that goes for right now. Like I said, we have a variety of graduate school resources. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But a lot of people don't know about scholarships, grants, fellowships, assistantships, things like that. So we can tell you more about those. We have a variety of some people say, well, who's going to hire me? You can go through a variety of majors. So let me just see. Oh yeah, public relations they have under business. So these aren't job openings, but these are companies who have hired your major. And again, there might be some other people who are not PR majors. I do understand that. But it should be coming up. It's just a little slow. But there should be a list of companies who have hired PR majors and websites and contact people and all sorts of things. And I'm not sure why it's not working, but I'm going to move on for right now. It's still thinking, but it does work. There's also some other types of things. This is what I was telling you about, this career game plan, where you can get more information about career competencies, things like that. So the other thing that I want to show you are we have some job and internship postings. So I would use Handshake. That is the platform we use. And this is why you should use it. I'm not saying it's the best site overall, but it's what we're using right now. But sometimes we get alumni who said, I would love to hire a SUNY Plattsburgh alum, students. Can I post a job? They can post it and only SUNY Plattsburgh students can see it. So it's worth at least checking that site. Yes, you can use Indeed. Yes, you can be using Glassdoor and LinkedIn. But Handshake is one of them that you should be using. And I know this doesn't have specifically PR, but there is a section for communications and media, and you will see some PR things in here. There will be some PR jobs in the business. So it doesn't have every single major, but you could just go to Handshake in general. But I did put together a list of targeted job websites. So if you go under Arts and Humanities, and then you click on Public Relations, these are some more targeted sites. So there's advertising, there's publishing. There are PR jobs in the American Marketing Association. We do have PRSSA. There's other, and you're right, if you're a member, I think you get access to more things than if you're not a member. But there are a variety of different things. Now, a site you might not normally go to, but I just want to show you something because I like the way it's organized. There's a site called Idealist, and this is focusing more on jobs in the nonprofit world. But let me show you why I want to show it to you. You could search by job type, full-time, but you can search by job function, and you can do casework, communications, customer service, but one of the categories is public relations. You can also search by education level. And you can say, I just want jobs that only want a 4-year degree. Now, if you do that, you might come across jobs that require only a bachelor's degree but want 10 years of experience. So don't be surprised by that. But then you can also say entry level. So you could say entry level, you could say only requires a bachelor's degree, and then you could say public relations, and then there's going to be different titles. And right now, there's not a lot when I do all those categories, but you will see a variety of things that might be of interest. This also has some things for those of you that might be interested in working with children and youth, climate change, communications, access, immigrants, refugees, human rights, housing and homelessness, LGBTQ, race and ethnicity, prison reform, reproductive rights, sexual abuse, human trafficking. So these are kind of unique categories you just don't see on a lot of other sites. So I just thought I would mention that. But again, you can look at a whole variety of sites, but these have some more, like I said, more targeted sites. One of the things when you do go to the targeted sites, and I just put a list of popular sites, and this I just want to show you just a quick example. You can do all these things for researching careers and job sites, but this is what I was talking about. You can get an idea of what things pay. So, and I want to make sure, I know we only have a couple minutes left, but you can put in, Okay. I'm just going to put in public relations, but you can put in whatever title makes the most sense. And then they're going to look up an example. So who has a city that they're sort of curious about as far as the salary? Does anybody have a zip code? Yes. Name. Yeah. Okay. Do you have one more specific? 10705. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to break up different titles. So VP, director, manager, executive, but let's just look at the public relations assistant. Okay, oops. Okay, so it's going to give you the average, or the median is 62, but I want to go straight to with benefits. So this is what people don't realize. The base salary, the median is 62,000, but if you figure in all the other benefits, it's 98,000. So my point is, so many people only look at the base salary and don't look at the benefits. So sometimes you have a job offer of 60,000 and you have one for 50,000, and you're like, well, of course I'm going to take the one for 60,000. But then you find out the $60,000 one does, you have to work 80 hours a week, and you have to work evenings and weekends, and it doesn't have any benefits and stuff like that. The benefits sometimes are worth more than the base salary. So that is something really important to keep in mind. But you can put in any zip code and kind of get an idea. Now, this isn't necessarily entry level, but you can kind of go by the title a little bit. This should be a little bit more entry level. And then if you put in another zip code, like Plattsburgh, it's going to be a totally different type of thing. So then that's when we get into what's the cost of living difference. And this is kind of fun. So some people have no idea. Now, not every city is in here. I'm not sure if Plattsburgh is in here. I don't think so. But let me just for right now put in Albany. If I can spell right. Okay. And we're just going to put in 50,000. And if you're making 50,000 Albany, you would need to make 82 in San Francisco to have the similar lifestyle. What's that based on? Big thing is housing, transportation, food. But it's kind of funny when you click on these, you can find out cost of bread, a dozen eggs, gallon of milk, a whole variety of things, entertainment, how much does a movie cost, things like that. So even if you go to, we're not going to a different state, we're going to Manhattan. If you're making 50,000 in Albany, you would need to make 111,000 in Manhattan, and then vice versa. So when people are just comparing an offer, you have to take into account your cost of living. So this can be helpful. And it can be used for salary negotiation. If you find out the median is one thing and it's way below what this website is saying, at least you have something to go by. So these are some quick references. I think we're almost out of time. I want to leave time for questions. So what I wanted to get through tonight, I want to let you know where we're located, how to make an appointment. I want to let you know some of the things we can discuss and personalize. So like I said, nowadays, of the 100 resumes I review each week, most of them are online and I never meet the person. So yes, I can give feedback on format and grammar and some general, function stuff, but I can't ask you about things I don't know. I mean, I can ask, but a lot of times people never respond. So I said, well, have you done this? Do you have anything else? And some of the most valuable, so if you can meet in person or via Zoom, if you have a live meeting, we can probably be more effective. And let me just tell you one of my favorite examples. I was working with a student who was a communication major, and we went through her resume, and it looked pretty good. She waited tables. She was an orientation assistant, and we had her looking pretty good. But I'm like, wait a minute, what do you usually do in the summer? And she said, oh, I just work with my dad. So she didn't think she should put on a resume. I'm like, well, what was that? Well, I worked in the American embassy in Cairo, Egypt. but she just thought of that as working with her dad and didn't think it was important. Now, mind you, she was applying for an internship at CNN News. So we did find a way to put that on her resume and put in things like interacted with international diplomats. She spoke a little bit of Arabic. She did all this stuff. Now, she ended up getting that internship. Now, would have she otherwise? Maybe, but maybe not. So again, but if I wouldn't have met with her in person, I would have never been able to dig that kind of stuff, out. So that is something to think about. So I told you a little bit of my thoughts about resumes. We have some targeted resources that you might not know about with PR jobs. But again, no matter where you are out, whether you're a first-year student or you're about ready to graduate in December, start looking at sample jobs and looking at what are the kind of skills they're looking for. If you already have that skill, make sure that's on your resume or your application. If you keep seeing things like, oh, everybody's wanting the Adobe suite. I don't know Adobe. Start getting to know that. Okay, so you have time this semester or next semester to learn some of these things, and that will be really important. So again, the next thing, this is just a great transition, is take advantage of meeting alumni and talking and hearing about them. Even sometimes alumni that weren't necessarily in your major, they still might be in the city that you want to go to. They still might give you some general information of how they networked or how they found out about positions or some other things. Sometimes at homecoming, a lot of times there's panel discussions. Get to know those people. And our alumni, I mean, networking a lot of times is talking to strangers, right? Well, the most helpful strangers a lot of times will be alumni because you had the same professor, you lived in the same residence hall, you ate the same Bono pizza at 2 in the morning. You have the shared, experience, whether they graduated 40 years ago or whether they graduated last year. And we hear from alumni all the time who say, I would love to do whatever I could to help another SUNY Plattsburgh student or alumni. And it's not guaranteed, but you go to some of these things and you hear from people, definitely that might lead to an internship or an interview or some other types of things. So that is something to keep in mind. So we're going to move to the next section, but does anybody just have any quick questions, quick comments? What's one new thing they learned that they're going to explore a little bit more, or something that they found interesting that they didn't know about before? One new thing you learned? Yes. The what? Okay, the cost of living calculator. Yes. Anybody else? One new thing? Yeah. Most people don't think about that. You might just think about PR agencies or things like that, which you definitely should, but there's a whole other types of markets out there too. That's why I just thought I would show that. One new thing? Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, at least you know one face in our office. There's other staff members in our office who can be very helpful. And hopefully you learned one new thing, and we are here to help you. Yes. And I just did some updates too that don't even appear yet. We are constantly adding things, and it's weird. Even before, we were in COVID and lockdown and stuff like that. We really do. We're one of the offices. We're constantly updating our website, and versus there's other places I know that, this is way out of date. Okay. Well, thank you for saying that. And we do take pride on that, and I just had a meeting with my boss, Moby, yesterday, and I already did 10 changes today, and they will be probably reflected tomorrow. So we are constantly updating that and trying to make it helpful.
Yeah, you go with the Jamaica list. At the end of the day, people go to Jamaica and pay their bills.
Yeah, just to have somebody bounce over it. So I know you can put together a resume yourself. I have no doubt about it, and you will. But why not have somebody else give you some feedback on it. And there might be just something simple like, oh, I didn't even realize I did misspell this or I did whatever. So definitely, I know it's confusing to get different opinions from different people, but it's also good just to get that feedback as well. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I'm going to stick around a little bit, and I'm sure I will always learn new things from our alums. And so we'll turn it over. Okay.
Um, how's the PR department doing tonight? Woo! Okay. So I'm gonna quickly run through all of the panelists that will be joining us today. I'll start with Nadia Potts, who is in person. So prior to her graduation this spring, Nadia interned with the New York State Assembly. Right after graduation, she was hired to work as an office and PR assistant with our local assembly member. Now she's a volunteer coordinator and campaign assistant for one of the candidates running to fill that seat. We also have Julia Delaney Halpin. As a member of Alpha Phi sorority, Julia has deep roots in SUNY Plattsburgh. Graduating in 2018, Julia earned a degree in public relations. From intern to event specialist, Julia has been climbing the ranks of PGIM, the investment management business of Prudential Financial, proving she knows how to turn internships into jobs. Meet Charlize Stephen. Charlize graduated from SUNY Plattsburgh in 2023 with a bachelor's degree in public relations and minors in journalism and gender and women's studies. While here, she earned the Activism and Leadership Award for commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Currently, she is a senior associate in business development. Her job is to develop and manage pitch budgets, timelines, and agency credentials. She plans and coordinates events from meetings to large-scale pitch production. We also have Russia Bowles. After graduating in 2020, Russia went on to work as an account executive in sports and entertainment at M&C Saatchi. Now she's an account executive doing beauty PR with Small Girls PR, a media relations influencer and experiential agency championing a personal approach to public relations. And finally, we also have Vicky Scott. With 8 years of experience in HR, Vicky brings deep knowledge and a smile to every workplace she touches. Well-versed across industries like logistics, manufacturing, retail, and most recently IT, Vicky thrives on creating workplace magic through strategic partnerships and energizing engagement. Her purpose is rooted in helping others, whether they have 2 legs or 4, fuels her passion both on and off the clock. Vicky calls Clemson, South Carolina home with a girlfriend of 7 years and their hobby farm animals. When she's not driving organizational success, you'll find her surrounded by nature, connection, and joy. We could get a round of applause for our panelists.
All right, so hey guys, I'll be asking the majority of the questions tonight, but we'll also be taking some from the people in the seats. If you guys need any clarification, if you can't hear me, you need me to speak up, just let me know. And thank you all for being here. So I'm gonna start it out, just a general question for any or all of you to answer. And just what would you say to yourself if you could go back in time and talk to the Plattsburgh version of you? I'll throw it to you, Nadia, because you're here in person first, so I'll let you take that one.
We can't hear Nadia virtually. I'm not sure if anyone else is experiencing that.
So I would say probably to prioritize maintaining relationships like with professors, interns, and people, whoever your supervisor is at the time. Keep that strong because you will come back to them eventually, in whatever way that may be. So I would just prioritize relationships.
Sorry.
Anyone else would like to take it?
Moocs, lecture.
I'm happy to take a bit more of a casual approach to the question. I would just say, go to everything you can on
Oh, where's the best place
campus.
to put the mic?
Go to the party, all the parties you can, meet all the people you
We
can.
can't hear you. Give us 1 minute. We'll try to figure out.
Thanks. Oh, the volume's not on.
Okay, someone want to speak? I don't know that they can hear me.
Anyone, if anyone wants to try to speak, we got the volume going maybe now.
Nice meeting you. I like your.
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. Perfect.
I think Julia was talking.
Yeah. So I was just saying, I'd take a more casual approach to the question by just, saying, go to everything on campus that you possibly can. Meet all the people you can, go to the parties, travel to all the places you can, because, one day life is going to get a lot slower and you're going to miss, the freedom and the spontaneity of college.
I would like to piggyback off of Julia. I want to take a light art approach, but also be pretty heavy. I enjoyed the time I had on campus. It was quite fun being so carefree because I don't think for most of us, we may never have that opportunity again where we could be so carefree and not worry about like anything. But then again, I would tell my Plattsburgh self, stop freaking out. Like you are freaking out. I don't remember if Professor Michelle remembers or even if I told her. It was like a month before graduation or something like that. And I hadn't had any interviews or anything. I applied to be a police officer. Why did I do that? I knew they were hiring and I knew they would hire me. So I definitely, jumped the gun because I got a job like a month or a half later. But at Lent, I should have calmed down and had more fun.
I can definitely add a little bit to that. I think I can also attest to the fact that it feels very stressful in the moment, but it is going to work out for you, and try to take some of that pressure off of yourself and absolutely have a good time. I got to study abroad when I was there. I grew up a lot when I was in college because I got the opportunity to figure out who I was. So make sure that you use this time to figure out who you are as an individual. What do you want to aspire to be? What do you want your life's legacy to be? And I don't just mean in work. What do you want your friends and family to remember you for? Where do you want to make impacts in your life? Those are the things that are going to matter. And when you look back, you're going to say, yeah, you know what? I don't have any regrets. And that's at least how I try to live. And that's something that I really took away from that. But with that being said as well, going back to that figuring out who you are piece, I think that that's a huge part of what this experience is all about. And to what Julia said and Shirley said, definitely take advantages here and enjoy yourself. Lean in to what your professors have to tell you and teach you. I can attest, and I'm sure all the other people who are here today can say they know what they're talking about and they're not steering you in the wrong direction. Listen to what they have to say, but also get out there and have fun. That's another great way to learn. It's not just what's in your books, it's what you experience. And if you can combine those two things, you're going to be that much better for it.
Feel like I'm just gonna be repeating what everyone else said. But I truly agree with what Julia said earlier about, exposing yourself to different people and different things on campus and interests. I often think about when I was in college and, I thought I wanted to do one specific part of PR, which was sports and entertainment, and now I'm in beauty PR. And I think, you look at these different niches and you're like, oh, this is so glamorous from the outside, but you don't necessarily know the nitty-gritty. So exposing yourself to different industries while you're also on campus. Obviously, I know we have the field house where people are also filming like sports games. So asking people the nitty-gritty about their current roles and what they're doing so that you can get a better understanding if that's actually something that you want to do, if that is a true passion or you're sort of seeing it through a jaded lens. I would also say this is kind of silly, but like pay attention to your writing classes. You're gonna write a lot. And, I thought I was a good writer, and I think I am, but there are definitely some blind spots that I had, and that I'm still working on. So your professors, like Vicky said, are not like just telling you things to tell you things. They truly are trying to put your best interest at heart. So that is what my recommendation would be.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys so much. All right, so now I'll go into a bit more personalized questions. I'll just go down my list here. I'll try to get you guys each at least one of your personal questions. So I'll start out with Julia. So Julia, you found a way to turn your internship from all the way back in 2017 into your full-time job. Now, what additional things did you do to go above and beyond at this internship to prove to the higher ups at this company that you were deserving of this full-time position?
Yeah, so I think by far, the most important thing I did during my 3-month summer internship there was really aggressive networking. During your internships, make sure you're making meaningful relationships and having meaningful interactions with senior leadership. I'd say seek out both official and unofficial mentors. Grab lunch and coffee with your peers. I have people I interned with, what is that, 8 years ago, I guess now, who are still my peers to this day. So yeah, just find unique ways to connect with people. That is really how they're going to remember you when you return to the company. And I promise, no one finds it weird when an intern reaches out and asks to grab coffee and get career advice. Even this past summer, I saw that landed someone a full-time job, the way that they were going out and being aggressive with that. And I'd say if you are interested in more corporate internships, I know the early fall, which is obviously now, is the time you need to start applying. This is like recruiting season for corporate internships. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, so we'll move on to Nadia. Nadia, as our most recent grad, you've had the most exposure to today's current job market. Now, what would you say are the biggest keys to finding success in today's world of employment?
So, gotta do fun connections right now. But also, I got lucky in that I went straight to the internship job. So if you can seek out internships or other experiences that give you hands-on anything at all, and be able to take that company, position, firm, whatever it may be, I think that was very good for me. It was a very lucky situation overall. But just get your relationships with your employers, your supervisors, yeah, and get it all down.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, now a question for Vicky. Vicky, in your professional career, you've worked across a multitude of different fields, from logistics, manufacturing, to retail and IT. How can students position themselves to be successful and knowledgeable across all these various fields and still manage a work-life balance?
I appreciate this question because I have worked in a variety of areas and it's difficult to cast a wide net that's also deep. So I would say that what's important kind of goes back to the first answer, to the first question that I gave, is don't stress yourself out over it too much. No one is going to expect you to be an industry guru day one. Find something that you're interested in, that you're passionate about. Find an industry and do your homework. I saw a little bit of what was being shared with you prior to our discussion. Use the tools and resources that you have at your fingertips. The most important one is this, the one that we all watch TikToks on and get on Instagram on. Make sure that you're using this for something that's valuable, which means getting on it and learning something with it. Figure out what's going to be in your best interest. What I personally did is I got a job up the street at Plattsburgh at the UPS hub. I didn't know a thing about manufacturing. I was in my PR classes and I said I needed a summer job and I had to start somewhere. So I went up there and I moved boxes. And they said, "You're a hard worker and you're really good at all the safety tips. We want to make you a supervisor." And I looked at them and I said, "Me? Okay, I'll try it." And I was able to really learn and grow within that business. And that was actually how I got into human resources, because they liked me so much when I worked there over the summer. They called me back when they had an internship opportunity, which I think speaks to somebody else's answer. Maybe Julia's about making good connections, showcasing what your values are, and leaning into the opportunities that present themselves to you. I think Russia mentioned it as well. She really wanted to be in maybe sports and ended up in beauty. Find things that are going to allow you to get your foot in the door and then lean into them. I will tell you from my experiences and working in all these different places, many companies have values or different principles that they put around how they expect you to show up at work. And these things are really important when you look at your personal brand and just about how you want to be as a person. How do you show up every day? Like I mentioned before, what's your legacy? What do you want people to remember about you? Don't worry so much about, oh, do I have all the industry knowledge? You're probably going to change industries. In this day and age, people are not staying in a job for more than 4 years. If you are, that's almost unheard of. Not saying that it's a bad thing, but people will job hop. So the chances are that you're going to find something and stick with it long term are a little bit more slim than it used to be. So what I'm really getting at is be true to yourself. Don't worry too much about all the noise outside of what's going on. Show what you can bring to the table. Show them what's in it for them. Why are you going to be a good choice? And find something or go after things that you're passionate about. I asked Michelle before I joined, hey, should I have like business casual clothes on, like to work from home? I usually just wear a t-shirt and, I'm truly just myself. And she was like, no, no, just bring yourself. But that's where I'm kind of getting at is make sure that you position yourself in a way that you are going to find opportunities that are going to be a good fit for you. Don't worry about staying up to date on everything. Find a few spaces that you want to pursue that you're passionate about that fit your personal values and what really fuels you, and then pursue those unapologetically, I'll say.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, the next question is for Russia. Russia, the agency you work for, Smart Girls PR, handles some pretty high-end clients, from Fortune 500 companies to some of the most recognizable brands in fashion and beauty. How do you stay creative in such a fast-paced environment like this?
It's hard. That's my fully blunt answer. But I think, going back to what Vicky said, not to continue to bring it back to what everyone is saying, but I think everyone is saying a lot of really important things. One of our core values here at Small Girls PR is something that we call work-life integration. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with work-life balance. It truly is like taking who you are as a person, whether you're someone who is hiking like 14ers every weekend, or you're like in a book, like in this nook in your house and you read like 3 books a weekend, taking the things that you're super passionate about and you're obsessed with and integrating that into what you do at work. So let's say you have a client like Olay, which is the client that I represent, the skincare brand. How can we get Olay, people that use Olay to care about hiking? Or how can we get people that love hiking to care about Olay? And you can do that in a variety of different ways, right? Like, people who hike maybe need portable facial cleansers. We have a product for that. People that hike are outside a lot. They are, their skin is really exposed to the elements. It may be drier than most people's. It may experience more sun damage. Maybe we send SPF to these like pro hikers. Like these types of things where you are, taking certain niche elements of culture, or you're taking your own personal passions and beliefs and you're trying to integrate that into what you are doing for your clients. I think that is maybe the easiest way to stay creative. Also asking your friends like the things that they're seeing other brands doing, things that you find interesting. Um, I think at least for me, how I stay the most creative I can is by really paying attention to like what is interesting me and what is moving the needle outside of like my own bubble. Like if I hear about something and my partner hears about something, then I know that like people care about it because we are two very different people. Um, I would also say that, you can consistently read things like Ad Week, Ad Age. They do a lot of great roundups of creative campaigns that can help inspire you. And also like following influencers, going on TikTok. I don't want to condone like being obsessed with your phone and addicted to your phone because we're all a little too addicted, but spending like 10 to 15 minutes a day just like scrolling and seeing the latest trends, I think can really help when it comes to even creative brainstorming and coming up with new ideas for clients or whatever field that you're in. So yeah, that's how I would say I stay creative.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, now Charlize, for you. Charlize, you're also one of our more recent alums, graduating just 2 short years ago, and you have found quick success in your career. I'm sorry, does someone have a question? No? Okay. Sorry about that. Looking back at your time at Plattsburgh, what things did you do here to prepare you for your transition into the corporate world?
Okay, can you guys hear me? Sorry, my laptop's like freaking out.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did I do? I did a lot. First, I took advantage of the SUNY Plattsburgh resources. I was at the Career Development Center a lot, maybe too much, but I was there a lot. I always met with like Morgan to like tailor my resume a certain way or get advice of doing what a certain programs and things like that. I also used Michelle Ouellette. She was my advisor at the time. Then I did this amazing program. It's a 4-week program. It still happens to this day, the Boyd Initiative. And that's really what got me in the door. I can't even lie. I met the the CFO of Fox. I met a bunch of recruiters through the Boyd Initiative. And that's what got me my job. A recruiter I met remembered me because I like reached out to her and she personally like told me to apply for this job and she kind of made me skip the line. And I think like that's where we'll got me really far, and it could get a lot of people really far having these certain connections in their network. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, so that was our first round, I guess, of personalized questions. I think this would be a good time to see if anyone else has any questions. If not, I can keep going. I just wanted to turn it over to you guys. Does anyone have any questions of their own that they're looking to ask?
Can they hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So this is a question for Rasha. I believe you said that you started off as sports and then you got into beauty. How did you get into beauty? Because I'm very interested in it.
Yes, for sure. I'll answer that. So the funny thing is that I actually had a beauty YouTube channel for like 10 years. I started back when I was in middle school and I continued it through high school up until like my freshman or sophomore year of college. So like I used to do beauty reviews and like makeup tutorials. So my passion for beauty has always been there. And I think that really helped me sort of like sell myself for this job because obviously like I was coming from sports and they were like, why do you care about beauty? So being able to relate it back to obviously a passion that I previously had, but I still hold. I think another thing as well is like keeping up to date on like what beauty brands are doing. I think there are so many beauty brands. You said you were passionate about beauty, so I'm sure you've seen like
Yeah.
Rhode and Elf and all of these like brands who are doing crazy things. I think when you are looking to apply for internships or for full-time jobs, it's really important to sort of know like what is the current landscape in the industry. So like not to give you like a potential interview question, but a potential interview question that someone may ask you is like, what is a beauty campaign that you've seen over the last 6 months that you feel like really hit it out of the park? I think those are things that you need to make sure that you can answer without hesitation to really prove that, like, yeah, sure, you don't have beauty experience, and that's okay because everyone is going to garner experience in their own way. And I think that, like, not pigeonholing yourself and garnering a variety of different experiences is super important to build a career, but you still need to show like, yeah, maybe I don't have beauty experience, but like I know exactly what Elf just did like 30 days ago with this celebrity, or I know exactly what Rhode has done over the last 6 months with like the launch of their limoncello peptide lip treatment and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so I would say just like stay up to date with the news. And if there's any sort of like creative outlet that you can build while you're still in school or after school, like a YouTube channel, a Substack, like a blog, that could really help you sort of stand out amongst candidates.
Thank you.
Of course.
Hi. Um, I wanted to ask, how do you find balance in your life now after college with your work, but then also social life and your own free time? Like, because I have a friend just graduated and she's in corporate, but it's so hard to like have your own life after 9 to 5.
I'll take it. Or Vic, do you want to go?
You can go first. I can definitely hold.
Okay. Honestly, I'm a big calendar person, and for me, I had to get like really proactive about it. Schedule that time. Okay. Especially in my circumstance, I travel for work to go see clients and things like that. And it's like traveling for me is on the whim. You have to schedule that time. If you're gonna go to dinner on Thursday or go to a happy hour, you want to go partying, like for me, that's my de-stressor because my job's sort of challenging. Like I sometimes have 12-hour days, not to scare you guys, not to scare you guys, that's just my circumstance. But after a 12-hour day, I want to go out on town. I want to go out on the town and get that out because it's stressful and you have to find the balance. Corporate's not going to work around you. You have to make corporate work for you. So that's my 2 cents.
I am also a huge proponent of scheduling your time. I used to not be very good at this. I will be honest. I would just let my work run me into the ground, and then I'd be like, "Oh, I'm so tired. I don't have time." I don't have time. If you ask my father, he'd say that that's my tagline. And I've worked on it because I've started to schedule my time much more intentionally, and I've protected my time. So I think, like Shirley said, you have to learn how to say no in a polite way. We now have Chat GPT. If you don't know how to do it, punch it in there. It'll give you a way to say it. And set that precedent that you're a hard worker with a lot of drive, but you also protect your personal time and peace because that's how you recharge and rest. I think Russia said as well, it's kind of evolved from work-life balance more into work-life integration. I'll give you a little look into my life to kind of let you know how this looks for me. I work from home, not everybody does, but I also have 18 animals that I take care of because I love them. They're my money pit. Everybody has their own thing, right? So a lot of times during the day, it'll be okay, get up, do some emails. I'm going to get this project done in the morning. Then I'm doing the laundry. At noon, I got to go out and feed the horses. Then I have back-to-back calls till 3:30. Then I have to go out and do my evening chores, but then I'll jump back online because I dedicated some of my time throughout my day to my personal things. And it's more about integrating it so that it all can work in harmony rather than boxing certain hours in for certain things. It doesn't really flow properly. And again, that all depends on the type of role that you're holding and where you're working. But it kind of goes back to your values about what does my life need to look like for me to have a positive experience. For me, going into the office would be miserable at this point in my life. I used to do it. I like personal interaction with people. I love connecting in person. But if I wanted to have my dream, which is living on a little farm and have a really great job, it probably wouldn't mesh super well. So I know that I'm talking kind of a lot about values, but a lot of things have shifted for me in the last couple of years. And I used to be, like I said, all about just like being a company man or company woman. And that's all fine and good, but make sure that you're protecting your time when you do that as well. Don't lose yourself and don't burn out. Because I did burn myself out and it was not fun. And it takes a while to come back from. It will not happen overnight. So make sure that you don't make that mistake.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else want to take it, or do we have any other questions? Colin, looks like you have a question.
Hi. So this is a question for really anybody. When going into your job search, how many jobs do you think you applied to? How did you stay organized?
I'm happy to start. Um, to be very honest with you, I think I applied to like 200 or 300 jobs. I know that sounds kind of crazy. But the way the job market is, I mean, I graduated in 2020, like middle of the pandemic. It was a struggle. I thankfully got a job not long after college, but I do think that you need to apply any and everywhere. I also think that like when you apply for a lot of jobs, you get more interviews and you get more experience that way. But I think just like don't put yourself in a situation where you apply for like 6 jobs and say, "Hey, yeah, I did it." Like I mean, I'm only talking for myself because I live in New York City and that is a very different market than living in maybe a smaller area. So yeah, in certain areas of the country, applying for 6 jobs may make sense. But if you are looking to potentially come to a big city, you are going to need to really hustle and apply for hundreds of jobs. And just like Julia said earlier, network and meet with alumni and meet with people from previous internships. So yeah, that would be my best recommendation.
I'm just gonna piggyback off of that because I think I kind of had the opposite experience because I went right out of my internship. So I actually only applied to 2 jobs. I know I'm very, privileged in that regard. Um, but I think because, you know, I, you know, I made those connections so early, in the middle of my college career, I was able to kind of sit back a bit my senior year and know I was, in a good place to be set up for a job when I graduated. So I think, I'm just drilling this into you guys, but internships are so important. And if you can get global internships, I'd say that's extra important. I interned in Ireland, and I think that was one of the coolest things I did. And I know there's resources on campus that can help you because I utilize them. And I'm still connected to those colleagues to this day. So I would say, you know, apply for as many internships while you're still in school as you can.
Thank you.
I would love to tack on one more answer for you, just because I probably sit somewhere a little bit in the middle. I have had numerous jobs, but one that really sticks with me was when I was applying to roles also in 2020. And I applied to definitely more than 2, but I don't think I'd probably hit 200. But what I did is I sat down and yes, there were some that were quick apply, right? And I was just like, all right, let me throw my hat in there, see what I do. But I also personally, because of the job market at the time, it was very volatile. There was a lot of opportunity. And I said, you know what? I'm throwing my hat in the ring to some big places. It was a time in my life where I could move and relocate. And I said, the world is my oyster. Let me see where I can go. And because of the industry that I got into being human resources, every company pretty much has human resources. Many also have public relations, journalism, whatever you're interested in, most of them have it. So keep that in mind when you're searching, unless you're looking to stay in a specific place. But what I really did is I sat down and I picked specific businesses that I was interested in working at. A lot of them pretty big because I felt like, I don't know, felt tough in 2020, I guess, and really tailored my resume to fit the job descriptions. And I made very intentional applications. It took me days to do for each. And trust me, I was like, oh God, I hated doing it, but I knew it was a necessary evil. And I probably applied to a couple hundred jobs. I actually made an Excel spreadsheet and tracked all the ones that I applied. If I ever got a response, if I heard anything back, if I got an interview. And what came out of that was an interview with Nike. And I remember I was outside at my house late at night doing yard work. And I got an email and I thought it was spam because it came through at 9 o'clock at night. I was like, is this real? And it ended up being real. And the rest is history. I ended up getting a job there and working there, which was a wonderful experience. But the reason that I say that is whether you have applied to 2 like Julia, or you've applied to 200 plus like Russia, or you're like me where you maybe applied somewhere in between and wow, I got my dream job. Isn't that awesome? Don't let those emotional pieces kind of sway you. Figure out, hey, I have the time to apply to 8 roles a week where I can be really intentional with them, and then I can do a bunch of quick applies on my phone in bed at night. I'm going to hold myself accountable to that, and I'm going to stick to that regiment until I land something. This job market is going to be 6 to 8 months, sometimes 10 or 12, sometimes longer. Do not give up. Do not give up on yourself, is really what I'm getting at. And, don't think, oh my goodness, like I'm never going to land a job, or I'm going to do this, and the first two I apply to, I'm going to get. I'm only sharing my story because clearly all of us have had very different experiences. So I don't want you to think that any of these are going to be directly applicable to you. But what you need to do is have a process and hold yourself accountable with discipline to it, because what you want will come to you if you outwork other people. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Do any other panelists want to take that one, or should we move on? I think we're good. All right. So Mike, go back to Nadia, and Nadia will actually we'll pick back up with you. So in Nadia, the year 2025, you're clearly working in one of the hottest political climates of this country, working in a political office. How would you say that working in this political office may differ from what some of our other panelists might be doing in corporate or nonprofit work?
I think it's very exciting to be side because you can access the all, but I work for the state. After that, I think careers all happen to be in Albany, and it's very a lot less. It's actually very fun. Or you'll hate it, but up to you. But compared to like corporate, I'm not too sure about. I don't know too much about. But the nonprofit side, they are being desecrated by our political decisions. So they are really struggling. On the political side, we're hearing a lot from them, trying to help them, but state level, only someone to do that. But on like corporate side, nonprofit side, I feel like you're getting more impact of it, like feeling it more. And on our side, we're just like, oh, either we won or we lost, basically. So it's a very different environment feeling, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. So moving, next question for Julia. I'm sure we have. So Julia, during your time here at SUNY Plattsburgh, you were involved in Greek life. I know we have some people in the audience who are involved in Greek life. So being a member of the Alpha Phi sorority, how can students leverage these campus involvements that they're involved in to build leadership and career networking skills?
Yeah, so when I was a member of Alpha Phi, I held, a few different positions that I think really helped me in the long run. So I started with being alumni relations chair. I moved on to social media chair, and then I sat on e-board overseeing our marketing efforts. And every single one of those things are now relevant in my current job. When you're young, these opportunities put you outside of your comfort zone for perhaps, the first time in your life. I know that might not fully be the case, but for me it was. You're interacting with people, places, things that you never would have before. And this directly ties into your networking skills, which I keep talking about. I'm sorry. Don't only be friends with people within your organizations and affiliations. My best friends from college were still my best friends to this day. We're all in different sororities and organizations. And, they all ended up having different majors and career paths. So I think that's really valuable as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, now moving on for Vicky. Vicky, with 8 years of HR experience across multiple fields, it's safe to say that you know what makes a good worker. So what behaviors and habits do you see in young professionals who advance quicker in these positions that we're all looking to get into?
I would say, I'll bring it back a little bit to values. I think one of the big things that I've seen between working at just a multitude of companies is a couple of things that keep coming up are drive and impact. I've seen that at Nike. I've seen that at Head, where I work now, which is an IT company out of Chicago. And it doesn't seem to matter what industry you're in, those things are essentially universal. If you can show up and show that you're a team player, If you're able to show up and show that you're not just somebody who can point out problems, but find solutions and suggestions on how to fix them, those are game changers. That's a leadership mindset rather than anybody can say, "Hey, that hose is leaking. Are you going to go get tape and try and fix it? Are you going to go replace the hose? Do you want to cut the hose and try and put a connector on it? Or are you just going to go tell someone else, hey, there's a problem. Hey, there's a problem." That type of mentality switch is really what's going to have people look at you and say, wow, this person might not know everything, but they have the commitment and the wherewithal to figure it out and not just point it out, but take action on it. So I would say if you can have those kind of approaches to your work, regardless of what industry you're in or what role you hold, you will suddenly see a shift in how people look at you.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Now for Russia. Russia, you've now worked for 2 agencies in your career, spending time with both MNC Saatchi and Small Girls PR. What advice would you give for students looking to enter the world of agencies?
It is a fast-paced environment. There's a lot going on and a lot of multitasking. So I think, especially since you all are still in college, sort of getting used to working a job and being in school and also being a part of a sorority or a club or an organization. And learning those multitasking skills, I think, are really crucial when it comes to agency life. I think that I did that a lot. Sometimes working myself a little too hard. Michelle, I'm sure you know this. But I do think that it helped me sort of understand like the expectations going into agency life. Um, and ultimately like has made me sort of get used to it a little bit quicker than someone that maybe wasn't as involved in college or in a different part of life. So yeah. That's what
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Now, Charlize, Charlize, on the same topic of working for agencies, you've worked for a global agency and you currently hold the title of senior associate. So it's safe to say that you've probably faced a fair amount of challenges. Like you mentioned, you've worked some 12-hour days. I'm sure those probably get very challenging. So what have been some of the biggest obstacles you face in your career thus far, and how do you keep adapting to change?
um, Biggest obstacle as well. I work, obviously, I pitch for clients all over the world, da da da. I think the biggest obstacles I face is urgency. In my industry, it is if I tell you I want you to do something, I want you to do it and do it fast. Like, because that's just how it is. Like, clients don't care. My clients don't care that they've asked me to do something unreasonable or like accommodate them unreasonably. They wanted it and they wanted it yesterday. So I should figure it out. Um, so I think like always being adaptable, being a problem solver, that like got me really far. It's going to get other people really far. Just like Russia said, multitasking, that's gonna get you really far. I think becoming tech savvy as well. If you're gonna work in an industry, well, if you're gonna work today, a lot of industry, you just need to know how to work a laptop. Like, if you're an HP user and you've never had a Mac, like that's what happened to me when I first started. I had to figure out how to use a MacBook. Now it's not very like different, but it's different. Figuring out how to use Microsoft software was a challenge instead of using like Google software. Figuring all of that out, like that's just like some tidbits of like challenges I've had to overcome that you just have to work through. I had to work through. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So with 15 minutes left, we've worked through another round of personalized questions. We could turn it back over to everyone else if you guys have any questions, or I just have some more general questions for any of you guys to answer if we don't have any from the rest of the group. So I'll turn it over. Do you guys have any questions? Appearing like not. So, all right. So we'll just go into some general questions for these last 15 minutes. Anyone feel free to answer. These aren't geared towards any one of you guys. So, all of you guys have worked your way into obviously very nice professional careers, but doing this, you obviously don't do it without rejection, setbacks, and like we just talked about, obstacles in your way. So how have you handled some of these, some of your biggest rejections or some of your biggest obstacles thus far in your career?
Fun one. Right after graduation, I was hired on by someone just to continue there. And then, surprise, he is something I signed. Unexpectedly, no real warning. This is not great, but it works out because immediately with my previous internship, that's where that guy was planning to run to replace him. So I called him up. Hey, I know what's happening. I'm here for you, whatever you need. And now I am on his team. I can get you one. So yeah, that was the resignation was a very big setback because I was on track to be like, oh, I'll be full time at whatever. So
Perfect. Would anyone else like to take this one? All right. Okay, so, oh, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I would say something that I like to think about when it comes to obstacles is like mindset is really everything. At least I personally believe that. I think a lot of times when you're working, you get feedback. Maybe there's an area where you're really struggling and it's not clicking to you. Like, why am I making these mistakes? Why can't I understand this specific business strategy? Like, why can't I do these things on my own? But if you don't take the feedback and say, okay, like, I'm going to continue to work through this and I'm going to stay positive about it and I'm not going to continue to push myself down, the moment you give up on yourself, which I feel like has been mentioned before, like, you are just going to sit in this I'm a terrible worker, I can't do anything mindset. And I think it impacts everything else, right? It impacts your confidence, it impacts how you show up at work, it impacts how you interact with your boss, it impacts how you interact with your coworkers. So I would say if you are struggling, you're dealing with a rejection, an obstacle at work, a challenge, stay positive, as cliche as it sounds. I know it is so cliche. Try your best to keep a positive mindset and think that you're going to get over this. It's just a part of the journey. I think that really has helped me to just avoid spiraling and continuing to doubt myself because ultimately that impacts your confidence. And it's important to have confidence when you're in client services and you're presenting strategies and trying to sell things in and bring in business for the company that you work for or the agency. Confidence is everything. So that would be my 2 cents there.
I'd like to add on to that because I think she made a lot of valuable points. I would like to say if you give up on yourself, like emotions are valid. Listen, I've cried. Okay. That's the first thing I've done. I've cried. I'm religious a little bit. I turn to God. If you're not religious, turn to the universe. Some form of manifestation, putting it out there, that energy, what is yours is going to come to you. It may not come to you tomorrow or as fast as you want it to, but it's going to come. If you stop trying, it will never come. It's not just going to show up on your doorstep, so you just have to keep pushing. I remember in my like application process, I had like a Notion where I organized everything, like questions, tasks, interviews, and stuff like that. I had to put a Bible quote because it was just getting so hard. I just needed stuff to like fill me with motivation. So just keep pushing, keep going, make yourself look very, very valuable on your resume, add a lot of value, be competitive because you're not the only one applying. So fight for what you want. That's all I'll say on that point.
I'll throw my 2 cents in here too, because I've cried at work. Like I will be so transparent. It's not cute, but it happens. We're all humans and we all have our moments, right? So I um I always find that I don't know if we have any skiers, snowboarders, photographers in the room online. If you've ever been down a mountain or taken a picture with like an older camera that has to develop, you go down the mountain and what do? You avoid the trees. Those would be the negative things, right? So sometimes, yeah, they hit you, you get your branch, whatever. But what does this do? Do you keep going right in that space where you're going to knock into the tree again or something? No, of course not. You learn from it and it shows you the way. It shows you the path that you're going to take or that you need to take. All it's doing is redirecting you. And that's how I've always looked at it. I've had a number of things in my life. I'll use Nike as an example. I love Nike, but I think it's a good example for a number of reasons. It was a huge struggle for me to leave. I did not want to leave the company, but the work-life balance or work-life integration was not a good fit for me. I'm not a city girl. I had to move to the city. It wasn't for me. I love to visit. Um, but it was a very big choice because to me it felt like I had made it, right? I made it to like a huge company, well known, well renowned, something that some people apply all their lives and never get a role there. And it was really challenging for me to decide to leave because I was like, is this the right choice? I really wasn't sure. And a couple years after, now that I'm sitting here and I own a farm and I work remotely, which I didn't think was possible with the kind of work that I did, and I feel as though I work with great people who truly support me and hear me and make me feel safe, seen, and heard at work and respected. I work for a company that means what they say and says what they do. And I feel like I have a good work-life balance. And those to me are things that I would not trade for a title, for a big name, for any level of prestige, because those things cannot be bought. And oftentimes you're not going to know about them in an interview until you kind of get into the environment. So for me, that was a really great experience because it taught me something that I think is really difficult for all of us to learn is, it's not always the shiny thing that you want to chase after. I'm not saying don't get after it if you want it, but if you get to it and you go, ooh, it's not working out for me like I thought it was gonna, don't let it, crumble your whole infrastructure of what you've built your career on and yourself on. Use it to pivot. And that's what I did. And I'm very happy that things worked out the way they did. And if I can ever go back there, awesome. But right now in my life, I wouldn't change a thing for it. So just keep that in mind. Don't let things knock you down. Like Shirley said, get up the 10th time. And whatever you need to get you through. Put quotes on the wall, put little reminders. I actually use like paper chains. I'm counting down until November because I'll have a little extra spending money in November, which I'm excited for. So do what works for you and just don't lose sight of what you have your eyes on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Colin, you have a question.
This is a question for Vicky. So I know in this field, a lot of the jobs that there are can be hybrid, remote, or on-site. So working remotely, how do you find, I guess, a way to not, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to word this, how to separate life from work when you're working at home?
That is a great question. So I will say that I, and actually my boss has done a really great job of getting me to be better at this. I have worked heavily on turning notifications off on my devices when I'm offline. I'm currently on my work computer to take this call, but I have myself set as away. Um, and making sure that you're not constantly getting notifications on your phone. If you're somebody who's more apt to check them when they pop up like that, um, that really helps because you have to create the space that you want to be in for yourself. So if I'm off on vacation, my phone's blowing up because something's going on at work, they are going to make it without you. They're going to make it. They will make it till tomorrow. They will make it till the next week. If you took 2 weeks off, they will make it till you get back. If you're on leave, they will survive till you get back. If you are on a team that cannot survive and with you absent, there's a larger problem. And the reason for that is because you have to make sure that there's proper cross training. So when you get into your role, that's a great question to ask. Or if you're interviewing, ask them about those things. How do they set you up for success so that when you actually take time off, or maybe you have a family emergency or something, can you step away, or are they going to ask you to be jumping on a call when you're in the hospital with your mom or with your child or whatever the situation is? You really want to make sure that you're protecting your time and going back to that. And some of that is your responsibility, but some of that is the company culture. And so you kind of want to make sure that one, you're vetting that when you're looking at jobs and making sure that it's going to be a good fit for you and your lifestyle and your needs. But also when you get into your role, how are you setting the precedent for yourself and for others and how you're going to kind of set that time up. Even if the company culture is a little bit different, you can have some conversations to say, hey, um, maybe some people go to church Wednesday evenings. I am unreachable from 7 to 8 when I'm doing that. So I'll get back to you later. It's all about compromise and conversation, but it's also about making sure that, you're, again, protecting your time and your mental health, right? Because I know when my phone just starts going and going and going, I will look at it. I know myself. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then I'm taking myself away from the experience that I'm having with the people that I'm physically present with. And so just keep in mind all those kind of like social media principles and best practices. Those are going to apply to your work apps as well when you're hybrid or remote and even in person, because I'm sure people use Teams and Slack in person and you might have it on your phone and you're getting messages all the time too. So regardless of what your workplace setup is, I would say that's important, but excellent question.
Right. Do you think we have time for any more or one more? All right, yeah, okay. All right, so final question, here we go. How do you guys see public relations as an industry evolving, and how do you guys see public relations evolving in your particular industry?
I think something. Oh, go ahead, Julia.
No, you. I'm in events, so I'm kind of in a niche part of PR. So if you want to start with the more macro PR, I could go into
Yeah,
more.
for sure. I was gonna say something we talk about often at my job is that newsrooms are shrinking, and we need to find other ways to connect with journalists to get our brands in different publications or to get people to care about them and build awareness. So I do think that certain parts and industries of PR are really headed towards, viewing people that are writing on Substack as like true media, true journalists, tapping more into podcasts that we've seen continue to grow over the last 10, I think, or 12 years. Um, Things like that. Other parts of media that are less traditional, I think specifically for beauty, that is what we're seeing. And I personally think that is where the evolution of PR is going, specifically from a media relations aspect. Um, but I can't really speak to other areas because that is sort of what my bread and butter is at the agency that I work at.
Yeah, so in my specific area, it's pretty niche, but I do events and sponsorships. We're seeing a lot less of the, massive like boondoggly conferences and events that you'd see in the early 2000s up until COVID. Now we're seeing more, small scale, meaningful 20, 30 regional events. Yeah, they're definitely more meaningful. So there's still, some one-off boondoggle events in Hawaii and Las Vegas and whatnot, but we're seeing roundtables in cities like Detroit, Minneapolis, those kind of cities. It's just becoming way more common, and we're finding we get a better bang for our buck, and we're meeting more clients in these kind of settings.
Perfect, yeah, anyone else want to take that? All right. All right, yeah. Thank you guys so much all for coming. I'm sure everyone here had a great time and greatly appreciates it. So thank you guys.
Hey, now before you all get out of here, do want to get a picture taken for everybody standing over here. So if you all just kind of want to like convene over here so we all can get in the frame with the picture. I believe somebody said she was gonna snap it or something.
I can
So
do that, no
I'll
problem.
just wanna, come on, don't be shy. I'll convene over here. Yeah, face the camera's right here. Can you guys see everyone? Okay. In there real quick. Right there.
Oh.
Right there. Everybody look right here. Okay. Any minute. And go.
All right, I think I got you. I'm going to take 2 just to be safe. I can do that. All right, ready? Sorry, I was on mute the first time. All right, 1, 2, 3.